where you're going with it. And now what I'd like to do is just kind of explain to you guys what this course is for. So what is the Introduction to Web Development course? Really guys, it's a foundation. It is what it says on the tin. It is an Introduction to Web Development course, and it's designed to give you guys a strong foundation on which you can build your skills towards achieving these goals. Just to let you guys know, for myself, just if you're going to get in contact with me, this is going to take commitment and practice, guys, from you guys in order to achieve proficiency. So let me say that again. If you want to get good at web development, you need commitment and you need practice. You won't get anywhere at all with if you do not commit to this and practice this. So the structure of this course, guys, is to break this extremely vast subject into manageable chunks that you can take and apply straight away. So it's all about practice. And over the next 4 weeks, guys, I'll be providing you guys with information. I'll be giving you guys various examples, various different web development topics. But at the end of the day, it'll be up to you guys to take what I've said during the lesson and apply it yourselves. So just let you guys know at this point, I will, like if someone emails me and says, Gary, you know, I didn't get that lesson at all. I really don't understand what's going on. What's wrong? The first thing I'll say to you is how much have you practiced? That's the first question I'll ask any student who's emailing me in with an issue saying they don't understand things. I will ask how much you've practiced. If you say none, I'll say, well, you better go and do some and then email me back with what you find. So I just really want to hammer that home straight away, guys. It is about commitment. It is about practice. And just a special announcement before we kick off today's lesson is that we are running a chance to win a lifetime membership competition to Shaw Academy, and the conditions for that are you just need to attend 4 live lessons before lesson 8. So to win a lifetime membership to Shaw Academy, all you need to do is attend at least 4 live lessons before lesson 8, and I will be announcing the winner rather during lesson 8. So at this point, guys, I'm just going to take a look at my chat boxes here, see if anyone has any kind of pressing questions I need to answer straight away. Gate is asking any tips for beginners in web development. Well, a tip would be to take this course, which you're already on. So you've already taken the first step in order to kind of get started with this. So if you're new to this, guys, this course is for you. It's about getting the foundation, getting to a good level where you can start thinking about going forward with your education and, you know, getting towards a career style of things. So this is going to give you enough to start off with, but if you want to do this professionally, if you want to get good content out there, you will need to go ahead and do some more on it. So let's have a look at today's overview of lesson 1. So today we're going to talk about what web development is. We're going to talk about what a designer is versus what a developer is. We're going to talk about types of web content. And we're also going to talk about the component parts of web apps. Now, before we get started with the lesson material itself, just want to let you guys know, I can see your questions coming in. I'm sure Stuart is going to answer a lot of your questions just if I can't get to them myself, but I will be stopping at various points during the webinar just to take some questions. So if I'm not answering your questions, guys, as soon as they come in, it's not because I'm ignoring you, it's just because I do have a lot to get through. It's a fairly packed course, so I'll be taking questions at specific points. So who can tell me what a website is or a web page? Does anybody know? At a base level, who can tell me what is a web page? What's a web page or a website? Can anybody tell me? HTML code. Yeah. A layout of content from Norman. A document. Closer from Neville. Paul says content provided via server. Bit too in-depth there, Paul. A set of tags. Bit too in-depth there again. At the most basic level, if you were describing this to your child, what is a website? What is a web page? Page with data, electronic paper from a man? Not really. Information? Yeah. Alright, let me explain to you guys what it is. in a most simple sense, a web page is a document written in HTML, which stands for Hypertext Markup Language. We'll be talking about that a little bit later on. So it's just a document. A website is a collection of web pages. So a web page is a document. A website is a collection of these web pages or documents. And as we know, web pages are, and websites, obviously, are accessible through the internet using a web browser. So whether that's Chrome, whether that's Safari, Firefox, or whether you are silly enough to use Internet Explorer, which I do not recommend, a web browser, that's what that is. So what is web development then? Anybody know? Anybody know what web development actually is? You guys are on the course. I'm hoping at least some of you know what web development is. To develop websites from side. Yeah. What does a web developer do? What does a web developer do? Back-end coding, okay. Web designing plus back-end, absolutely. Let me see, builds web pages, writes HTML code. Yeah, web developer does all these things. Let's talk about the kind of dictionary definition though. So web development, guys, refers to building, creating, and maintaining web content. It includes things like web design, it includes things like web publishing, web programming, and it includes database management. So a whole package of what we're generally going to be doing when we're creating web apps or websites. So why should you learn it? Well, firstly, guys, the internet is everywhere. It's absolutely everywhere. In today's world, you cannot go a day without using some sort of internet technology. Let me ask you guys a question. How many of you guys have checked Facebook today? How many of you type it in the chat. Go on, just type it in the chat. How many of you guys have checked Twitter, Instagram, email? Maybe you went to check, keep typing yes. Maybe you went to online to check timetables for a bus or a train. Maybe you shopped online. Maybe you subscribed to a service like Netflix or Spotify. You're in an online webinar right now. Everything you do in your current life, guys, is is internet driven. We cannot get away from it. We're jacked into the internet all of the time. So, who makes this content that we're using every day? Can anybody tell me? Who makes all this great content? Developers, from Carmen. Absolutely. We do. Us as developers. And as of starting this course with me today, guys, you are all developers. We're the people who are going to be making all of this content that everybody wants to use every day. The second point of why should you learn it is it's constantly expanding. Web content and services are as big now as they have ever been, and they have no sign of stopping anytime soon. More and more companies are looking for websites. They're looking for web applications to streamline their businesses and make themselves better as a company. And what does this create? Does anybody know what this creates? For you guys, this is really important. What does this create? This demand. It creates demand, but what's the word I'm looking for here? A couple of people have it in the chat already. Jobs. Absolutely. Opportunities. Jobs. This creates jobs. There is a serious deficit for programmers, web developers, web designers in every single market on the planet right now. People cannot find them. There are literally not enough developers, designers, programmers, database admins to fill the current jobs that are out in the market at the moment. This is extremely important for you guys because you know by starting this course now that there are already jobs there. They cannot be filled. So you guys are in a prime position right now to take full advantage of this because in my opinion, guys, in 15 years' time, you are not going to be able to get a job unless you know about this stuff. Does anybody agree with me there? This is my opinion. I think in 15 years' time, you will literally not be able to get a job unless you can use computers to a good degree. So people are pretty much agreeing. So as I say, guys, you are in the best possible position right now. The absolute best possible position. So what's another benefit? If there are all these jobs, where can we work? Anywhere we want. We can work anywhere we want because everybody is looking for us. And as of today, guys, everybody is looking for you. You are the next generation of people. Everybody is going to be looking for you. Once you get your skills up, you're going to be begging people to stop emailing you, trying to hire you. Just personally, guys, I get 5 to 10 emails a week from different companies asking to hire me as a developer. 5 to 10 emails a week saying, Gary, can you come over to Germany and be a web developer on our team? Can you come over here and be a web developer on our team? This is it, guys. I'm so serious. And once you get the skills, you can do whatever you want with this. And for me, guys, and Trino, I can see your questions. The most important part of this, aside from jobs, is that you can create anything you want. Anything you want. What was Facebook before it was Facebook? What was Twitter before it was Twitter? What was MySpace before it died? An idea, guys. John has it in the chat. Farron has it in the chat. Ben has it. Carol has it. David had it. They were ideas, guys. That's all they were. They were just ideas. All you need is an idea. And you can do whatever you want. Make any kind of program you want. So, hopefully, at this point, you guys are excited about getting started with this because, as I say, there are places out there. I guarantee you, if you get the skills, you go beyond this course, you get more skills, you're going to get out there as a web developer and you will get a job. I guarantee you. So, let's take a look at what a designer is versus what a developer is. So, as we know, we're on a web development course. Let's start with a designer. What do designers do? Anyone else? Create a plan. Create layout from Andrea. Design site. Well, yeah. GUI architect from Karen. Very fancy terms there. CSS from Hassan. Absolutely. Graphics. So let me break it down some kind of key things that a designer is going to do. So a designer is going to be usually responsible for the look and feel of the website. So this includes things like colors, fonts, layouts, whatever, menus and navigation. They're usually going to have a design background. So things like how many pages a website should have, how to make it easy to navigate. A web developer, on the other hand, is going to have probably a much broader range of IT skills. Now, web developers are going to go a bit beyond just the presentation of the web content, and developers are going to be responsible for adding functionality, making sure it does what it needs to do. So to put it simply, a web designer is the person who deals with the visual design and layout of the website, and the web developer takes that design from either a photo, wireframe, whatever it is, and takes it from that visual design and puts it into a fully working website that is going to be online and available to the world. Now, although web developers are going to be usually more programming focused, do all this functionality stuff, that does not mean they cannot be web designers. A lot of the time, and I don't think anybody's going to disagree with me here, so just say if you disagree with me, but I don't think you will, web developers are generally more interested in building the website and in the code itself. Would anybody agree with me there? Would anybody disagree with me there? My point, I think that a web developer would usually be more interested in the code of the website, more interested in how it works and all of these things. So a lot of people, pretty much most people saying they're agreeing with me there. So that's kind of good. That's good. We seem to be on the same page. Let's have a look now at the different kinds of web content we're going to be looking at. And as I say, guys, a lot of questions still coming in. I will answer them, don't worry. I'm just going to save it for a particular time during the lesson. So broadly speaking, there are two main types of content in cyberspace, in the web world. these are usually going to be split into websites and web apps. Now, this isn't set in stone. It's just a general difference between these two types of content. So it's important that we know the differences between these, because if someone comes to you in the future and they ask you to build a website or something for them, you need to understand what you're going to go after. So a website, guys, is usually going to be mostly static, meaning that it has content, but it rarely changes. So it's maybe going to be used for maybe informational, maybe brochure style content, and it's generally going to be the same for every user that visits the site. So some examples of this would be the New York Times website, something like IMDb. There's stuff added to it all the time, but it's not really very interactive. Now, a web app, on the other hand, is dynamic. It's dependent on user interaction. It changes based on user actions and data, and it is individual per user. Can anybody tell me a good example of a web app? Abigail's got it straight away. Facebook, absolutely. Probably the most popular web app out there. Well, Twitter and Netflix, absolutely. So all of these things, Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, they are dynamic, they change, they are based on user interactions, individual user content. Let me go and ask you guys a question. If Facebook had no users, what would be on Facebook? Anyone? Frederick has got it. Richard's got it. Dharmesh's got it. Jimmy's got it. Nothing. Absolutely nothing. What if nobody decided to visit the New York Times website? What would be on that? Probably still news articles. Just be like someone's adding stuff to the New York Times website, but nobody's doing anything on it. Nobody's visiting it. It would still have the articles. But Facebook had no users. YouTube had no users. There'd be nothing on it. So that's a good way to kind of distinguish a web app from a website. Ask yourself the question, if there were no users on this site, would it serve a purpose? Would there be anything on it? So, just on that, guys, I'd like to mention at this point that in recent years, the line between website and web app has become more blurry. Now, a lot of people are saying, is this a website? Is this a web app? It has become a bit blurry. A lot of websites now are going to have web application elements. So say beforehand, where a website for a museum may have had static information about opening hours, information about exhibits, it may now have an online store or a booking system for tours, something like that. So that's kind of dynamic, that's kind of web app style stuff. So things are kind of getting a bit blurry. Websites are turning into web apps. Things are getting more functional. Who's that good for? If things are getting more functional, who's that good for? Anyone? Users? Yeah, users, but let's be a bit selfish here. Us, developers. Us, this is good for us. People want to add more functionality. I'd be happy to take your money and add functionality to your website. Absolutely. Fantastic. So, this is what it's all about. This is what it's all about. So let's have a look at our checklist to see how far we've come at this point. So, we've talked about web pages. We've talked about what is web development at its core. We've talked about a little bit, at least, about what a designer is, what a developer is, and we had a look at websites versus web applications. So that's a lot covered so far, guys. And I just want to make the point at this point that we will be covering a lot more in today's lesson. I've blasted through a lot there, but I want you guys to know that this lesson now, it's only meant as an overview of the course. I do not expect you guys to have a complete understanding of all this material when we finish. This is just an overview. Pretty much every one of these slides that I've shown you today, it is going to have its own lesson. So we're going to have a lesson on web pages. We're going to have a lesson on web apps. We're going to have a lesson on developing type stuff. So don't worry about kind of taking all this in now. I just want you guys to have an idea of it. I want you to kind of understand what it's all about, just to put you guys in the best possible position so you know what you're getting into, you know what's going to be coming up over the next couple of weeks, and so on and so forth. So, going to take one or two questions. Pamela's asking, will we learn HTML coding in this course? Absolutely. We'll be talking about HTML in the next lesson. Romano's asking, will we have something about web servers? 100%. What language are we going to use for Mohammed? The real question there should be, what language are we not going to use? So guys, for those of you wondering about what's on the course, what's coming up, what are we going to cover, please do go on to the Shaw Academy website. It has everything you need to know about the course. So guys, if you don't know what's coming up in the course, if you're asking me what language are we going to use, what kind of database are we going to use, what this are we going to use, pop onto the Shaw Academy website, pop onto the web development course, and you'll see a complete layout of all the lessons. So for the purpose of this, guys, I will not be talking about will we cover this in the course, will we cover that in the course. The information is all available on the website. So, let me see here. And Mohammed's asking a good question in the chat there. What are the entry level requirements for this course? The answer to that question is nothing. This course is aimed at beginners to the field. So, and another question from Jimmy. What can I do in 1 month? Can I build a very basic website? Jimmy, the answer to that question is you will be able to build a very basic website by the end of the week. Yes, absolutely. In lesson 2, we're going to talk about building web pages, building a basic web page, looking at templates, and how you guys can get some web pages up and running straight away. So look forward to that for lesson 2. So let's talk now about the components of our web apps. A couple of main ones here. Split it into 4. So the 4 main components of web apps are firstly the web server, secondly the web pages, thirdly back-end code, and fourthly, if any of these are actually even words, databases. So we're going to take a look at each component of these now, and just so you guys know, every single one of these will have their own lesson. So if you don't get something right now, guys, don't worry, it will be covered in its own lesson throughout the course. Okay, let's start out by looking at the web server. Can anybody tell me what a web server is? Anyone at all? Mohammed says hosting of the data, contents, where the web page is stored. Absolutely. Host of the site, storage on the internet, 100%. A computer from John. Absolutely, it is a computer. So a web server, guys, as John so rightly mentioned in the chat there, is just a computer. One difference. It's a computer with software for delivering web pages installed. So what that means is that its main purpose is to send web pages to people's browsers. It's going to contain all of web applications content, it's going to contain all the data, and as some people have mentioned in the chat there, you may have heard of the term web hosting before. What web hosting companies do is provide customers with web servers to put their websites on. So guys, believe it or not, you actually already use web servers every single day. Every time that you type the address of a website in your browser, like google.com for example, the internet is going to actually send a request to the web server that has that content on it. And you're going to get a web page back. Let's have a look at an example of this. So here we can see that a person has entered in the URL for facebook.com on their computer. What happens then is that a request for facebook.com is sent to a web server at the Facebook data center. So it's sent to a web server at the Facebook data center. What's going to happen after that is that the web server is going to find the content on its hard disk and send it to the web browser. So it finds the web page and it sends it back out. Very simple. I'm sure you can imagine though that Facebook probably receives a bit more than one request from one user. In fact, it's probably more like a couple of million per second. Now, obviously you'd need a pretty extreme web server to deal with all these requests, and this is where data centers come in. A data center is essentially just a network of web servers. These are all going to be linked together and are specifically designed to handle large amounts of requests. Now, these data centers are often going to include hundreds, if not thousands, of web servers, all processing these millions and millions of requests every single hour. Byron's asking a good question. So, is everything that we upload stored on the Facebook web server? Absolutely. Every post you make, every picture you take, Facebook is watching you. So everything you ever do on Facebook, it is uploaded to the Facebook web servers. They have that information. And that's just something you agree to when you sign up to Facebook. So I'm not sure if any of you guys have ever read the Facebook terms of use, but you may find that they're a bit scarier than you might think. But there are data privacy laws to make sure your information isn't shared around, at least not too much. How many servers would a company like Facebook have? I have no idea. Hundreds, thousands. I'd say thousands, if not tens of thousands. Okay, let's have a look at web pages now. So, we've talked about what web pages are, but let's have a look at them a bit more in depth. And Paul's actually said in the chat there, Facebook has about 16,000 servers. Thanks for that, Paul. So, our first component of a web page, guys, as I said earlier, is HTML. This is what web pages are made of. And the way HTML works, guys, is that it uses a system of tags to tell the browser how content should be formatted. So whether it's a paragraph, whether it's a heading, whether it's a list, whether it's a picture, it just uses these tags to separate your actual text from the content you want on your page. So you can see I have a tag there in my third bullet point. So it starts out with an opening angled bracket, it has the letters HTML, and then a closing angled bracket as well. So that's what a HTML tag looks like. And for those of you guys wondering what the 5 is on this, HTML5 is the current and most recent version of HTML. If for some reason HTML6 creeps along, by the time we're halfway through this course, I will be updating the course and we will be doing some HTML6 stuff, but that's still a very, very far ways off. So let's have a look now at how a simple web page is going to be constructed in HTML. So here we can see a bunch of HTML code. Now, it's going to look very confusing, but let's pay attention to 3 tags in particular. So you can see I have 3 HTML tags with some stuff inside them. So I have one that says I am a title, I have one that says I am a heading, and I have one that says I am a paragraph. And don't worry guys, this is just a demonstration. I don't expect you guys to understand this all right now. We will be going over this in depth in the next lesson. Now you'll notice that all of these text items, they all are surrounded by 2 tags. And one of these tags actually has a / before the tag name at the end. Now the reason for this is that in HTML, we need to tell the browser where the tag ends. So this is done by adding the same tag with a / to the end of the content you want it to affect. So in this case, if I just zoom into one, you can see I have a tag with the letter P in it. So that's a paragraph tag. And at the end of the text, I have another paragraph tag with a / before the P. So that's telling me start my paragraph off here. My text is in the middle, and I'm going to close my paragraph off here. So hopefully that makes sense to most people. Does that paragraph example make sense to people? You just type yes in the chat if it makes sense, type no if it makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. Okay, I'm pretty much getting 99% yes here, so I'm going to continue on, guys. So glad to hear you guys all know what I mean by that. So what happens when we actually run this in the browser, guys, is that the browser is going to interpret that. So if we run that in the browser, you can see we get a big heading, we get a paragraph, and we get a title at the top of the page. So that's how HTML is going to work. You're going to write this code to tell the browser what the particular bit of text is, and then the browser will interpret that and display it out on the page. Now that's just for text. But how do we actually design this? Nobody wants to really visit a text-based website, but how do we actually format it? Does anybody know before we start? Carol does. Amir does, Paul does, Ramon does, Mohammed does. Okay, a couple of people do. So how do we actually move things around? How do we color things? How do we style things? This is where our second component comes in. This is where CSS comes in. So CSS stands for Cascading Style Sheets. And what this is used for, guys, it is to style and position your page content. So it's going to be used for things like for adding colors, for adding different fonts, for moving things around the page, all of that stuff. So HTML is going to give us the text of our website, hypertext markup language, and CSS is going to give us all of the style.